Okay, so I have been doing research for a video now for 2 hours. I have made four complete videos and gotten to the end and been like, I'm not going to put that up. And then I saw this in my comments section. Yesterday, I was talking about affordable housing for men only affordable housing, and someone put this delightful thing into the comments. The only affordable housing in our entire society is prison. I was like, wow. And so I thought, you know what? That's a pretty valid point because where do most men end up when they can't afford housing? They can't get a good job. They're not in a relationship. Their parents can't afford to support them. They get into problems with the law that eventually will lead to single men housing with jobs, benefits, and plenty of physical activity out in the workout yard, and all the love that you could possibly want in the shower, courtesy of a Fleece Johnson that is housed in every single housing complex in America. And without further ado, let's get into our four talking points, which are all great today. All right, so governments spend billions annually on the prison system while affordable housing programs remain underfunded. You know why these programs are underfunded? Because these people aren't important. If you're not a successful man in a relationship making a good salary, you're not considered an important person. There are millions, there's tens of millions of men out there who are not seen as worth spending any money on. These loser men, the men that have dropped out of the economy, remember, 1 in 3 men have decided that there isn't anything in the working world for them. The jobs don't pay enough, there isn't anything to look forward to, there's no pink taco, there's no cool car, and there's no reason to try. And when you have this is the default position for most young men, obviously they're going to be disenfranchised with being alive. When you're disillusioned with the reality of life, either you're going to choose to bail out financially or physically out of a system that doesn't want you. Why is punishment prioritized over prevention? Because we want to make certain that losers get what they deserve. This country is about punishing every single person that failed to become rich. And so the vast majority of us are just going to be exploited by people who want to make millions of dollars while paying their workers next to nothing. And unfortunately, in a system like that, the punishment itself is the kind of jobs that fall victim to that slave owner, right? These are the people that have to work in those jobs because they don't have anyone to help them. They can't just go to their parents and be like, you know what, I give up. I can't afford to work at McDonald's and support myself. So instead, these men are being punished for being the losers that allow society to function as it does. And as a person who feels that way, strongly that way myself, I can understand how this mindset is causing severe mental health across our entire society. And guess what society says? Well, if you're not strong enough to become rich, well, then guess what? We're not going to help you. Instead of helping you with your mental health or helping you with finding shelter and being able to support yourself, we're going to punish you for not being smart enough to be rich. Talking point number two. Many individuals, particularly single men, are funneled into the prison system due to circumstances stemming from poverty, such as unpaid fines or loitering. Remember, here in Tempe, Arizona, they made sleeping outside illegal. So if you can't afford housing, you're automatically doing something that's illegal because where are you supposed to go? As a person who's had to sleep outside for a very, very long amounts of time, I'll tell you, there's nowhere to hide from Johnny Law. If you're out there committing the crime of not being able to afford housing, the system has to correct itself. And by that, I mean they have to put you in prison. Because what happens once they find you and they put you in jail for a night for not having a home? Well, guess what? The next night, you're not going to have a home either. And after, many days of getting thrown in jail for not being able to house yourself indoors, you're going to find yourself in a longer prison sentence, because prison is a place where you're supposed to go to find Jesus, a place where you're not supposed to drop the soap, and a place that's not very good for the rest of your life. Once you've been in prison, coming out and trying to reintegrate to society as a ex-con, it's not easy. Once you get that label placed on your forehead, it's for life. And a lot of businesses will not hire you, which means you're going to get funneled into the bottom jobs, which means it becomes a cycle of poverty, ending up homeless, then going back into the prison system, and eventually you're just going to give up on a system that has made it its prerogative to turn you into a prisoner. Because, as I said, the only affordable single housing for low income men is prison or getting into the projects. But I think the projects caters mainly to women, low income women with kids. Single men really don't have a place to be poor in our society. So if you're thinking about being poor, single, and not having your parents' basement in it, think about what it's going to be like to have to participate in this society's only affordable housing. And I've been saying this for years. This isn't the first time. This isn't something new. I've been saying this for a long time, is that this country does not prioritize resources for single men. And one of the most dangerous things to a society to have is a lot of single men with nothing to do and no ambition towards a better life, because we know what the better life costs. We know that the jobs that you can get. I mean, I'm stuck in a dead end job right now. In fact, I went in to work this morning and I just didn't feel it. And so I'm like, you know what? It's mental health day. So that's what happens to men, is you just start developing the loser mindset, because there's no way to win in the system that's built against you. Talking point number 3. The prison industrial complex benefits private corporations, local economies dependent on prison jobs, and political campaigns built on tough on crime rhetoric. Where have we heard this before? Tough on crime, right? I think California got rid of their lax laws on shoplifting, and they're going to start putting all these people who are shoplifting because they can't get real jobs. Let's face it, no one wants to have to commit crime, even as small as shoplifting, in order to survive. But with how little jobs pay, crime is the alternative, and crime leads to uh, single man housing in cages. Imagine if they just got rid of the prison system, instead just created a workhouse scenario, because that's what the prison system has become in America, right? It's become the default warehouse. When you're going to criminalize petty crime because people need to commit petty crime in order to survive, again, what you're doing is you're punishing people for not being successful. And I'm going to come back to the laws in my city right now that don't allow you to be unhoused. You're not allowed to live on the street, but you also can't live on a low paying job either. So they've got you either way. Either you're going to be able to work within the system, meaning you have to be successful, you have to have opportunities to be successful, or else the very system is going to punish you for for what the system has done to you. It's a catch 22. And I think it's intentional. It has to be intentional. When you build a system against the very people that work in the system, it has to be intentional. It's not an accident that they're capturing all of these men to make them work. In fact, a few months ago, I was making a funny video in which I talked about in which you would have to wear a jumpsuit of the proletariat. And if you had a band on your arm that showed that you were employed, you were just off from work, the police would leave you alone. But if you have the band that shows that you don't have a job and you're out walking the streets, well, they're going to pick you up like a stray and force you to work. Guess what? They're actually doing that because if you're out on the street looking dirty, disheveled, and homeless, they're going to pick you up for sleeping on the street, which is a crime, and they are going to punish you for that behavior. And it's amazing that you can go from one thing, this made up scenario, to the reality of picking up people who are homeless because they have to sleep somewhere. Just because you don't want homeless people in your city and you enact these laws against them doesn't mean you fix the problem. In fact, it's one of the worst ways of dealing with your problem of societies that are teeming with bad jobs. Should we blame the corporations for providing crap wages that force people to live like this? Because that's who I'm pointing the finger at. Because if people, and again, I'm going to come back to that title that I used a lot over the past year. Nobody wants to work anymore isn't nobody wants to work anymore. Nobody can afford to work anymore is more the title that should be used in this in that situation. Nobody can afford to work, and the single housing problem shouldn't be prison. That's a simple way of looking at it. But when you think of rich people, they don't think the same way. They're the exploiters of society. They're the job creators. They're the people who think it's a privilege to have that crap job. They really do believe that you have the privilege of work without dignity. In a sense, they think of you as a slave. Final talking point. Without affordable housing, individuals are pushed into homelessness, mental health crises, and even prison. Well, where are you supposed to live when you work at McDonald's? A few years back, they released a pamphlet for the workers who work at McDonald's, right? If you've ever looked at McDonald's job ad on Indeed, they actually have a link to their website where it shows the ideal McDonald's worker going through their day, where they wake up in their luxury apartment, they get into their car, and they drive to this very modern, clean looking restaurant that I personally never seen. And that's what they want the image of the company to look like. It's not a low paying job, it's just gotten a bad rap. But the reality, if that were actually true, the person in that video encouraging you to work at McDonald's would actually wake up on the street, sleeping on the street, walk to the McDonald's store, work 8 hours, and then get off of work and then go back to sleeping on the street. That's what every minimum wage job is. There is no housing for someone that makes $14.35, at least till tomorrow when you get that big raise. Remember, minimum wage worker, tomorrow's the big raise day. Tomorrow at midnight, your pay is going to go from $14.35 to $14.70, which I think is the plan to save society. 35 cents, which is going to be the merit raise that even I'm going to get in my current job. 35 cents an hour increase, even at a corporation. And then when you look at them with disgust, you look at the people who made the decision to increase your pay by 35 cents, and they look at you and tell you how ungrateful you are for those 35 cents, and you just kind of like, you know, you wonder why homelessness is increased by. I saw a video where they said 18%. I saw another video where I think it said in Massachusetts it went up by 50%. The numbers are high, let's put it that way. And we know that the numbers are high for one simple reason: the wages are low. The jobs that are available in our society are also low. And the layoffs that are going to be in the near future. Because as I've said to you guys many times before, when people aren't buying, businesses go out of business. When consumers don't have money to consume because they're not paid enough money to consume, it's a domino effect across society. Restaurants, uh, businesses, retailers don't sell as much. And in turn, what do? The rich don't want to stop being rich just because poor people don't have money. They are just going to take the billions of dollars that they already have and invest it in something else. If that doesn't work, they'll close that business and open something else. This is the way that rich people work. They will never stop craving. Their greed has no bounds. When it comes to destroying society for personal benefit, that's the way they feel society should work. They don't worry about the person who's losing their job working at Big Lots. And media coverage saying that the company is going to try to keep its doors open in order to save jobs. Well, guess what? I would much rather Big Lots goes out of business rather than creating dead end jobs with no career, no benefits, and no chance at anything better. Because every corporation that I've seen, every low end corporation, every restaurant, every retailer that I've seen that is going out of business employs minimum wage workers. And what does that do? Once the workers are no longer employed in the mall or in whatever retailer that they're working, that means that the prison system has a place for you. Society has a place for you when you can't make it on your own. And sadly, our prison population, just in California alone, is probably going to increase by millions of people who can't follow the rules because they're trying to play the game of life. But this game's been rigged against them so badly that by default, they're going to become part of the prison population. All right, guys, I have been talking for a long, long time this morning, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this video up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoy the artwork that comes along with it because it still hasn't been made. It's in the future. All right, I'm out.